The Town Board Workshop meeting on Thursday, March 13, 2014. Please rise so we can salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. We keep a moment of silence for our brave troops. Emergency exits are to my right, the door you came in, and directly behind the town clerk. Roll, please.
Councilman Delango.
Here.
Councilwoman Hetzelberger.
Here.
Supervisor Perotti.
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Here.
And Councilman Perotti is absent.
Okay, public comment.
Just Christie. Hello, I'm Christine Ford. I just want to let you know that we had movie night. It was really good. I want to thank Jim Devine for all his help with me with movie night. Our last movie night will be April 4th, 2014. Doors will open at 6. Movie starts at 6:30. It's called Everyone's Hero. It's about Babe Ruth, his bat being missing. And then we're going to start back up November 7th, 2014. I'd like to talk a little bit about my pitching clinics that we have put together with the help of a pitching coach, Mr. John Lamb from Sharon, Connecticut, on Mondays from 4:30 to 6:45. I have 7th to 12th grade boys. They're coming from all over the place. I have Winston, Connecticut, Cornwall, Connecticut, Sharon, Connecticut, and Kent. I have Amenia, Millerton, Pine Plains, Dover, and Copiague. We had 17 boys on Monday here. Then we have also another pitching clinic on Wednesdays from 7:30 to 8:45, and the majority of them are from 9 to 11-year-olds. They come from Amenia, Millerton, Sharon, and Dover, and there are 8 of them. So Farm League sign-ups are not too late. You can always sign up anytime you want to. Right now I have over 90 kids signed up, and I have more that keep popping in every day. I'm getting more and more. We have about 14, I think, girls signed up right now at the moment for softball. Next week, I'm going to get together with Frankie, and we're going to get together, and I'm going to place an order for all the teams. That would include Farm League, Little League, Girls Softball, Connie Mack, and Babe Ruth, to get our big 25% off once we get all our items, so that saves a lot of money too for us. Opening day will be April 19th, and we're hoping that it's not raining so we can have a nice picture like we did last year. Like this. But we're actually going to have a cleanup day. All are welcome, April 13th at 10 o'clock. That's when I get all my coaches and some of the kids. They all help. We clean up the whole park, making it look nice, cleaning up all the garbage and stuff. The end of the season will be a Friday night, June 27th. And next week, I will get the Monarch schedule and the Weebatuck varsity and JV games on the town calendar. I'll give it to one of the girls upstairs. And if there's any questions, please call me at 845-705-7127.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For all your hard work. Is there any other public comment? Town clerk report.
Good evening. I'd like to report that the monthly share has been remitted to the town supervisor in the amount of $387.04. The town taxes have been remitted in full in the amount of $1,920.13 to the town supervisor. Taxes may still be paid in the town clerk's office with the following penalties. If you pay prior to March 31st, and that's postmarked March 31st, there's a 2% penalty. If you pay during the month of April, there is a 3% penalty, and if you pay during the month of May, there is a 4% penalty. After May 31st, I close my books, and then the Commissioner of Finance in Poughkeepsie will collect your taxes with a 5% penalty.
taxes, you can come in Monday through Thursday between 9 and 3 to pay your taxes, or you can go online and pay them online. I'd also like to report that the minutes for February 27th meeting have been submitted to the board. The open RFP for the concession stand, to date, I have received no applications or letters of interest. The open recreation commission seat, I've received one application to date. I've received the report from the Office of the State Comptroller's Office. I need to file a legal notice with the paper, and I was unsure if the board has made a decision if they're going to submit that report sooner than later. 'Cause if you know you're going to have a report by the end of this month, I can hold off that legal notice. If not, I need to submit the appropriate legal notice saying that the report and the response from the town would be made available, but prior to the 90 days after the presentation.
Well, the response from the town is in the report.
Okay,
We
so-
still haven't, we're working on a corrective action plan at this point.
Corrective action. Okay, and then once that's done, that will also be then made available in the town clerk's office. So at this time, if anyone wishes to review that report from the State Comptroller's Office, it is available in the town clerk's office. As a reminder and a request of our Fire Chief Chris Howard, March 9th was daylight savings. We know it as spring ahead. So at this time, he'd like to remind everyone to change their batteries in their smoke detectors. If your smoke detectors are older than 10 years of age, he would recommend that you replace them or have them checked by a professional. And now I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. It all depends on which side of the table you sit on. I'd like to announce that Patty Barron, the Deputy Town Clerk, after 14 years, will be retiring. March 20th will be her last day in the Town Clerk's office. But with that news, I'd also like to welcome Kim Watt, who will be replacing Patty. So I just would like to give a warm thanks to Patty. She's been here a long time. She's been very dedicated over the years. She's seen many town clerks come and go, and she's really kept the office standards at, set high. And my first term would not have been as a pleasure if I didn't have someone like Patty in the office. So Patty, if you're out there and you're watching, thank you.
Thank you from all of us for 14 years. That's quite a service to the town.
Yes, and she's done such a great job with the taxes. There's never been a complaint or problem with any of the taxes turned into the county, and I believe we were usually one of the first municipalities to turn in the tax money to the county, which is a tribute to her hard work and long service to the town.
Thank you, Emily. And that's all I have this evening.
Is there an online address for the taxpayers to pay online?
If you go online to www.ameniany.gov, on the right-hand column of our website, you scroll down a little and you'll see View Taxes Online. Select View Taxes Online, and you can search your parcel if you know your bill number, if you know your tax ID number, or it's as simple as putting in your name.
And we had one person who applied for the Recreation Commission, and are we at the deadline they have to apply?
The deadline was set for noon today, and the one applicant was Chris Klegner.
Well, I make a motion that we appoint Chris Klinger to the Recreation Commission.
I'll second that.
Councilman Zelenko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Perotti is absent.
Okay. Highway Department?
I did a little comparison from last year to this year. Seems like this year was a lot tougher. So I just want to see how it looked budget-wise. Last year for the diesel fuel, We got $30,000 in the budget for diesel fuel for the whole year. Last year at this time, these numbers ain't exact because I did it by percentage. We roughly spent 18% of the budget in 2013 up to this date. This year we're at roughly 35%, so it's a little bit of increase there. Snow removal budget line, we have a budget of $70,000. We were lucky last year we had some extra money at the end of the year, so we really stockpiled the sand pile. So we started out with a big pile of sand. Last year at this time we spent 20%. This year we're at 35%. So that's looking all right. The heat for the garage, due to the price of oil and cold winter. Last year at this time we have $6,000 for heat for the garage. Last year we're at 23%. This year we're at 43%. That may run out. Lights for the garage. The lights are a lot more because we're there a lot more this year. Last year at this time it was 15%. This year it was 22%. We have $2,700 for lights for the year. As far as the overtime goes, in the budget, I believe we have 150 hours per man for overtime, which is 750 hours total. Last year we used, at this time, 41%. This year we're at 52%. So we're in pretty good shape there too, I believe. Every August I bid for the salt. OGS, it's not a bid, but we buy our salt off the state. And you've got to tell them how much you think you're going to have or use. So I estimated 500 ton, and so far we've used 555 tons, and they allow you 20% either way. So that's good. Then our salt shed is just about full, and we'll start next August. We'll start another year, so we'll be okay with that. We had the inspection down to the highway garage by the county. We had 6 violations. Everything's been corrected. There was nothing really major. We probably spent maybe $100. We had to put a shower out in the shop, bring the eye washing station out in the shop. So all that stuff is completed. Now we're getting ready for mud. I mean, mud's going to be terrible this year. I can see it already. Just one day we had almost 60 degrees and it was starting to pop. So there's going to be a lot of mud. So hopefully we get through that. Now, we need a highway garage. We've been hearing this now for over 30 years, I'm sure. And it really bothers me that I know we have money in the capital project line in the rec department for the new playground equipment. $87,000 for new playground equipment, and we got to work out of that dump down there. I know there's 2 different departments, but it still bothers me. And we have 0 capital project money for the highway department. We'd have nothing for the highway department. Years ago, I said, I asked if we could get the other half of that cell tower money, because that's how they're doing it. They're pretty fortunate. They get $1,200 a month. 10 years, they got $14,400, or $140,400. $144,400. And if we had it for the last 10 years, we'd have some money to get started. We have nothing to get started with. Seems like all the money that we can get comes right up here. We've received 2 written complaints on the sidewalks on 44 going down by Dills. 2 written complaints, one from an attorney. So Bill Flood asked me to have the engineer come in and look at it and see if $150,000 would do the sidewalks. So I had Morris Associates come in and he says, I think $150,000 would do it. And that's a sidewalk all the way to the ball field. Well, when it's time to pick projects for the CDBG grant, it wasn't even discussed. What came right up here? You applied for $100,000 for up here. And I just don't think you're right. I think the highway should start seeing some money. And especially these sidewalks, man. We've been put on notice. We're on notice. Two written complaints. I just hope that we do end up seeing the garage because it's not getting any better. I know we've been working on it, but we can work all we want. We still need money.
Isn't there a TAP grant or something for sidewalks coming up? Were we looking to do anything with that?
We are looking to apply.
For the ball fields or Freshtown?
We'll see what it's got. I mean,
Whatever.
Stanley just pointed out our three major things we need funds for: the highway garage, the sidewalk
Yeah, we're
to
looking
the
at some
park, and the
big ticket
sidewalk to the
items here.
plaza.
I mean,
These are huge ticket items, and that's what we're looking for funds for.
last summer after we got the complaints, the highway crew went there and we patched them up, but it's only a Band-Aid. I mean, after this winter, you probably couldn't even tell we've been there.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, and I really thought we were going to apply for the community block grant. But, came right up here, applied for it up here. Same with you need $900,000 for heat. That's the number I'm hearing, $900,000 for heat. And our garages probably be $900,000. So where's that $900,000?
That was a consultant estimate.
Well, that's
Nobody
my
voted
estimate,
to do
too.
that one.
Just like that rail trail. That rail trail's $800,000. That'd be over $1 million by the time that's done. And the highway just doesn't get anything. We just continue to work out of that dump, and it's unsafe. I mean, something's going to happen down there.
Well, that's why I'm working on it. We had CT Mail came down this week with Liz Rovers, who's been working on our on the Amenia landfill project. She brought Rick Campagnola. He was a licensed architect in their building divisions department. They looked at the garage and the surrounding property as a possible site to build, and they're going to send us a proposal. One of the things we found when we sent for a proposal to assess the materials that are in the highway garage to see if we did demolish it, what the possible costs might be for whatever materials we may find in there that needed remediation, like lead, asbestos, PCBs, whatever. One of the things CT Mail suggested is that not to touch the existing highway garage at all and just leave it there for storage and look for, we walked around the property to see if there was another place on the property where we could build a highway garage. And we're, also going to be looking at other sites. So my feeling is, and this is something the board needs to discuss, is that I don't think we should touch the existing highway garage at all. If we're going to put money into a highway garage, it should go into the building and not into whatever money it would take to correctly remove asbestos, lead, and whatever else. I mean, the existing highway garage can be used to store snowplows and a lot of other highway equipment. So going forward, that's kind of the feeling I have about it, and something we need to think about. Where we want to get the best bang for our buck, and my feeling is to put it into the highway garage and not spending money to do anything with the existing building. But as we get more proposals, it's something ongoing that we'll probably be discussing at pretty much every meeting. The other thing related to highway, we're starting to work on our annual audit update for 2013. We haven't closed, 2013. We haven't closed 2013. It doesn't get closed out until after the annual audit update. And one of the things I found in the 2013 budget was that we got $9,900 for sales of equipment for an auction from the highway garage. So I spoke with the municipal accountant to see if we could add that money to the existing capital reserve fund that's been set aside for highway machinery before we closed out 2013, and she said we could. So that's why you have that resolution, and that would be Resolution number 8, 2014. Whereas Section 6C of the General Municipal Law authorizes the governing board of a town to establish a capital reserve fund for the financing of all or part of the cost of construction, reconstruction, or acquisition of a type of capital improvement or the acquisition of a type of machinery or equipment. Whereas the town board finds that the acquisition of highway equipment and machinery is necessary and appropriate to facilitate the continued proper functioning of the town highway department, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Section 6C of General Municipal Law, the town board hereby establishes a capital reserve fund to finance all or part of the cost of the acquisition of highway equipment and machinery to be used by the town highway department. It is further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby directed to deposit the following sums in the fund: $9,900 being the sum indicated in fiscal year 2013 budget for sales of equipment. It's further resolved that all sums deposited in the fund shall be held in a separate bank account to be known as Highway Department Equipment and Machinery Reserve Fund. It's further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to invest the monies of the fund from time to time as provided by general municipal law. It is further resolved that no expenditure shall be made from the fund unless the expenditure has been authorized by a resolution the town board duly adopted in accordance with Section 6C of general municipal law. It's further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately. This foregoing resolution was voted upon with all councilmen voting as possible, and I make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti is absent. Councilman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Blanco?
Yes.
Okay, building department.
Please find February's monthly report for the building department. As building permits go, we have issued 5 new building permits and 1 gathering permit of $50, which totals $425. We are continuing with the certificate of occupancy searches, and for this month we did 2 searches, which totals $255. The total for the month of February by the building department was $675. Sincerely, John Fenton. On a side note, there was 6 zoning violations, 2 appearance tickets were issued, and 1 fine was collected of $250. There is also a public gathering permit for the Wassaic Fire Department. The event is supposed to take place on May 31st, 2014 on 10 Main Street in Wassaic. And they're looking for an approval with the fee to be waived. That's all the information I have on it.
Would you like to make the motion that we waive the fee?
I would like to table it to get some more information about it. Are they closing the road, or they...
Gathering permit just means that they are going to have a certain number of people that meets that threshold. It's a program that we put on every year.
Every year?
So
Okay.
it's run, yes, they do close the road, but that's a separate item that we'll
deal with?
deal with when they propose the actual times and such. But we have been waiving those permit fees for nonprofit use.
So I make the motion then,
A second?
to waive the fee? Good.
I'd second that.
Councilman Blanco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Doyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Perruzza?
And that's it?
Grant report?
Good evening, Mike Haggerty, grant writer. I met with Victoria earlier. We're trying to tie up, there was some concerns by New York State on the Main Street grant, just finalizing that because Aaron Kinney had a couple questions that had to be clarified to get the final payments out. The good news is the town is going to be getting the full $195,000. Mr. Patel's check has been, his claim has been approved. The check should be forwarded to the town any time now, really. So I've been telling Victoria that to expect the bank account to get a deposit for his claim, which is approximately $60,000. Also, the library. Today we took care of. We revised the disbursement form basically for the library, so they will be paid. The town will get a check within 10 business days, hopefully sooner than that, for the library. Also, the streetscape project, $25,000 has been approved, and also the $10,000 administrative reimbursement for grant administration is coming through. The one last item that we have to just get some clarification on, which I've reached out to Claire Houlihan, is her claim. I want to get her the most that she has coming to her, which is about $41,000. We just have to provide a little bit more documentation of her expenses, so I don't think that will be a problem. And if there is any leftover funding, we are going to request that the town be reimbursed for the streetscape component, because the town spent more than $25,000 on that project. But it really has been, I think overall will be a success in that 3 buildings have been renovated, and the town's streetscape on East Main Street has been improved, which was the intent of the grant. It was actually the intent of the Mechanic Street grant even way back, so I think we have something to build on. The deadline for new Main Street grants will also be coming up in June. There's a lot of grants that are coming up in the near future that are that the town, I think, would be interested in. The Greenways community grants are due May 9th for consideration at the June 11th board meeting. The deadline for the Transportation Alternatives Program grant is June 11th, and there are several workshops coming up this month. I know there's been some emails going around announcing that. There's a webinar on March 18th, a long 4-hour webinar, because it is a complex grant, but we've applied for this before and had success with the Trail to the Train grant. What used to be called the TEP grant, it's now TAP. We were talking about the sidewalks that Stan had mentioned. That's definitely an eligible project. We had also applied for sidewalk to Freshtown. I don't know if we can somehow link the two as like a downtown pedestrian improvement plan. It's certainly a possibility.
Well, they certainly need upgrading.
So the idea is to connect the outlying recreation facilities and shopping opportunities to the hamlet and make it a more walkable community, and also safety concerns.
Now you're attending a webinar on that?
Yes, March 18th.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that program, but having worked on the TEP grant and just the Trail to the Train project and other ones that we've applied for. Although it would be great to get any background that we have, because I know we did a try for the sidewalk to Freshtown, so I'd be happy to work with you, Gretchen. I know you may have the old grant application. We could revise that, because you probably have some budget numbers I know in there that you could use. So that's really all I wanted to just give an update on Main Street. I'm taking care of it. We will get the reimbursement, and we'll have the audit coming up soon for that. Community development will be in September. I did talk to Dutchess County. They had a question about the CDBG grant that we did get for the Trail to the Train. I gave Victoria a copy of the grant. It really was a grant designed to make the trail more handicapped accessible and inviting, especially at the connection between the existing rail trail and the trail to the south.
And the kitchen grant, where are we?
Well, I'm working, I just have to get the letters of support in. I haven't, done the sample letter, so I'll be getting that completed shortly. I just need to get a few more
Because
supporting.
I think we have all the numbers for the equipment for the kitchen.
That's a USDA rural development grant that has an ongoing deadline, so I've written up the narrative for it. I really just want to get some more letters of support. I have your board resolution.
Did you send the draft letter to Congressman Gibson?
Yes, I did. So I will reach out to them to see if I can get an actual, put it on his letterhead. He may want to tweak it a
And
little
have
bit.
you sent a draft to Dee Dee Barrett? Because she's
No, but I will.
supporter.
I will try to get as many as I can.
Yeah, send draft letter to her also.
And I'm getting some from the farmers market vendors.
Okay.
So that should be done in the next week or two. I'm hoping to gather all of them.
Okay.
at the next, maybe I can report at the next meeting and bring I'll give you an update.
Okay.
On
Good.
grants, I was just wondering if I could add that the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation's Northeast Duchess Fund is going to be due April 15th. Typically, I've written a request for a couple of $1,000s to assist with our dance program, but will not be having, June has declined offering that again this year because of her declining vision issues, and having to hire a driver to bring her out here proved to be a very large obstacle for her. So I was considering adding applying for $2,000 or $3,000 for improvements to the auditorium, which one of our handicaps here is in performing arts in the auditorium is the echo and the not great acoustics. So I was thinking I would call on an expert who's over in Cornwall Bridge. I got a phone number for them and start figuring out some, $2,000 to $3,000 places to start with helping with the acoustics, given that we've already put the drapes up, which help a lot. But there are other, I talked to a sound engineer, Ballantyne Communications, and they suggested some, modest improvements that could be done by volunteers or a modest craftsman, and that we could start the process of trying to make some first line efforts within, a couple of $1,000 range. Does that seem like a good fit for our Berkshire Taconic grant? So that I'll investigate that with the backup of trying to rework our dance program with a new instructor into that as a backup plan.
That sounds good, because they are interested in helping Amenia, and if it's improving the quality of life, I believe is their,
Yeah.
in northeastern Dutchess region, so.
I think the better use of our auditorium would leverage a lot more in the future. Our dance programs would be more effective, and concerts would be more effective. Community use would be good.
All right, thanks.
Committee reports. I'd like to introduce our new attorney, Denise Fitzpatrick.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We also need at this time to, I've had Monique and Annette in the office working on updating our emergency operation plan and updating all the names and telephone numbers from front to back. And I think we need to accept it at this point.
There is one change that I did see.
There's a lot of changes.
Yeah, no, but.
The whole book?
On this one,
Okay,
with the new attorney.
okay, that's it, yeah, we'll have to update that
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only thing that I really saw in it.
Is anything else anybody else saw? Or? So we would be able to adopt it with just the one change?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the Dutchess County Emergency Operation Plan with the correction noted.
Second?
Councilman Kalendo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Henselberger,
Yes.
Supervisor Brody,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
and Councilman Brody's absent.
Now, do we need to open up the request for proposals to other newspapers? Because I think it's been in,
Who is in the Norton?
Because we didn't get any response.
You want to run it in the Poughkeepsie Journal?
I just need permission to do that because this is the costly thing when you send it to the Poughkeepsie Journal, so I don't take that edge to do it. You know, put that in the form of a motion or.
It's a couple $100
Well, you
per
never know what the
3 or 4
costs
days.
are. It's a lengthy ad. This whole thing is really.
Do we have to publish the entire ad, that entire
Well, it's a legal notice.
requirement? Okay.
This is what was given to me for my case. This was 06, and it's the same legal notice.
Right.
I've never altered the
So you've
legal
been doing
notice. This is,
my
we just
case
kind of
and
keep it in the
suggestion.
same one. So if you would like to
Can I
make
see
another
it?
recommend, absolutely. So it starts at the stars and goes down.
That seems unnecessary to include all that.
I mean, that is a big ad for Poughkeepsie Journal. They do get a little expensive.
Should I read it to you, what the lawyer had suggested we print in the paper?
I mean, sure.
Operation of a food concession stand at Beekman Park in the town of Amenia from May 1, 2014 through August 31st, 2014. Beekman Park is located on State Route 44 in the town of Amenia, New York. Weather permitting, the licensee shall be permitted to operate the concession stand every day from May 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014, on which a baseball or softball game or other recreational activity is scheduled by the town of Amenia Recreation Commission from 1 hour before the scheduled starting time of every such game, to 1 hour after every such game ends. The successful applicant will be required to enter into a license agreement with the town of Amenia, which shall include but not be limited to the following terms and conditions. The successful applicant may sell only food and non-alcoholic beverages at the concession stand only at reasonably competitive prices. Beekman Park is a totally smoke-free area. Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Nobody would ever
We show it to Denise.
put all
See what
that
she thinks.
verbiage in an ad unless it was absolutely required. We do have a license agreement, but surely we could reference that and the information could be referenced on our website. It goes on for a page, a full page of requirements.
Yeah, I would have to check and see whether you can do like a summary version with a reference.
And just
in.
say, check our
Because,
website,
I
or
mean,
successful applicants will have to comply with the requirements.
Right,
and-
right. I mean,
Right.
I'd have to check on it to be sure,
Okay.
but it just doesn't make sense that we would have to publish.
That
it.
much money for a concession stand, we could probably run it ourselves after.
Yeah. Did we ever look into doing that ourselves?
Well, we have had the fire department in the past took it on, and our soccer group took it on. It's a good fundraiser for a nonprofit to do, but
I mean, like Boy Scouts or maybe even someone from the farmer's market or something like that?
I think anybody could apply. I don't think, I mean, you'd have to sign the lease agreement, right?
The
Um,
lease agreement and insurance.
You'd have to provide insurance, so that would be,
It's every day. 7 days a week you have ball games going on in there.
I mean, as part of the agreement, you have to be there 7 days a week?
That's how that was written. That's just been historically what it is that the individual that takes on the concession stand was there for all of the Farm League games and practices. You have Monarch games, you have Babe Ruth games, you have Connie Mack games, we have men's softball that plays from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5, 6 o'clock at night. On Sundays, it's a 7-day business. If that's what the board wants to continue to offer, I mean, that's,
you know, we had in the past, before we created this formal license agreement, the volunteers or the families would do that. I think Pete Clare headed that up for years and years and years and did it for free, and they helped raise money for their teams. So I guess that just simply isn't working.
It's just that it's changed, because now, it's that particular program, from P to I, the net revenues gets turned into the town, and you can't just spend it the way it used to be done. It used to be done, if you have the money, we raise the funds, we went and purchase the baseball bats. Today, you can't do that. Everything has to get turned in, and there's a process that the board has implemented.
Right.
So that took away us from doing it ourselves. And then the fire department did take it on for several years, and it's a lot of work with all the other activities and and requirements and training for fire department. So they haven't expressed an interest. Then we had a company out of Poughkeepsie that ran it for 1 year, and due to an incident, they stopped. They didn't want to come back. And now we had a woman in Dover that ran it the last 2 years, and now she's chosen not to. So, we've always just been fortunate to fill the position, and this year we have not received anything. So I'm willing to advertise somewhere else, to someone on the board, anyone that's watching today's meeting that, might have an interest, if the board wants to open up the avenues to what you're going to require to be down there.
Well, we can make a motion for you to advertise in Poughkeepsie Journal, subject to,
The specific content.
yeah, to what Denise said we need to put in it.
We
Should the
should just
attorney-
put the bare minimum in
the
and
attorney's
reference our
recommendations.
website or town clerk's office you could get the full requirements there.
Okay.
We'll get you some.
I'll second it.
Okay. Councilman Delango.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
Yes.
Supervisor Brody.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
And we have another resolution that was, we were requested to do by Assemblyman Karen Lawler regarding the elimination of the corporate tax on manufacturers, resolution number 9. Whereas the proposed 2014-2015 New York State budget includes a provision that would eliminate the corporate income tax on manufacturers for all the state except for counties in the MTA region, including Dutchess County. Whereas this proposal will drive manufacturing jobs out of our communities. A manufacturing business in Dutchess County would pay a 6.5% corporate tax, while a business in Ulster or Columbia County would have no corporate tax. Whereas the Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Middletown metro area is one of only 2 New York regions to lose private sector jobs in 2013. Whereas proposals to split New York State into separate tax zones are divisive and pit New Yorkers against each other. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the town of Amenia memorializes the state Senate, Assembly, and Governor to include all of New York, including the counties in the MTA region, in the elimination of the corporate tax on manufacturers. Foregoing resolution was voted upon, all councilmen voting as follows. Can I make that motion?
I'll second that.
Supervisor Brody.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brody is absent. Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
Yes.
Councilman Delango.
Yes.
Okay, and copies of this resolution need to be forwarded to New York State Senator Terry Gibson, New York State Assemblyman Dee Dee Barrett, and Assemblyman Kieran and Michael Lawler, District 105. Amenia Fire Company fireworks. In the budget last year was $3,000 under celebrations that was given to the Amenia Fire Company to help them with their community fireworks. This year, the Amenia Fire Company is sponsoring the Dutchess County Convention for Firemen, which is going to be a huge event during the time they usually have their parade. And they are requesting $3,000 that they were given last year for community fireworks from the town board. And since it wasn't a budgeted item, I wanted to bring it before the board and get your comment.
So that's to assist them in putting on this convention here in Amenia? Is it-
Yeah, the fireworks part of it.
Oh, just the fireworks part. So that would be just for the fireworks again, to help pay for that.
Right.
I have no trouble with that. Do we have additional money also for the Holiday of Lights? Because it seemed to me that that's what maybe that's a separate amount.
Well, that'll be
That's a
separate.
separate line item.
Separate line,
That's a
okay.
separate line item.
Okay, then I have no trouble with the 3,000 as long as we have additional something in there for Holiday of Lights.
Okay, I make a motion to, I'll have the transfer at the next meeting because I'm going to have to transfer the money out of contingency to move this. So I'll have the transfer ready at the next meeting so that we can approve it. Transfer of funds, but I'd like to make a motion that we transfer money from our contingency line to the celebration line to pay for the community fireworks for the Amenia Fire Company.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Cody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Okay, we had a incident at the Wassaic Firehouse for the generator down there. It overheated and got very hot, and it wasn't working after they had something like a brownout down in Wassaic, and it affected the generator. So the company that services the generator, and it's part of the contract we have with them, H.H. Schreck, would like to do a level 1 service to replace the hoses, the belts, the thermostat, and generally do a service for the generators at both firehouses. And the price of that would be $1,489.28 for both services. And I believe that's the level 1 service that's in the contract. No, it looks like
This
the
is
level
an
2.
Addition to the level 1, right?
No, this is just no. This is, he said that they need belts and thermostat. This is what's part of the, of the level 1 and level 2 services. These are the specific things that each of them need at this point.
Okay. Do we have any records on what was done to these already and stuff like that, and how
Yeah,
old
they
the
have it.
generators are?
Schreck has all those records.
Schreck has?
Yeah, that we've had them for,
Okay.
I don't know.
I was just
Andy,
wondering if this
forever.
was ever done on them before. Is this how old are the generators?
I'm not sure how old they are.
I don't remember us having serviced them.
50 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
We
But they
haven't had too
don't,
much
we haven't had to service them very often.
Just renew the contract.
All we do is usually renew the contract every year.
Renew the contract?
But now they're old, old enough where they need some.
Yeah.
They
I
need
mean,
some
it's just you
belts
got
and
both
things.
generators, the both same service. I mean, were they put in at the same time? Do they
Yes.
have the same amount of hours on them?
Yes.
So,
So, would someone like to authorize me to have this done? To sign and return, if I would like to, for them to proceed with the service of both generators?
I'll make a motion that the supervisor be authorized to sign and return so Shrek can proceed with repairing our firehouse generators.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor, can we just, when we're in contact with Shrek, can we get the maintenance records on them?
Sure,
Just so, we could look at them and have them on our file?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, new public water supply operating permit fee. Um, I received a letter advising us of a new public water supply operating permit and fee required by Dutchess County Department of Health. This is something that all of the towns and villages were blindsided with because it wasn't part of the budget. They, just decided to give us this new fee. But it's something that has to be paid, in order for us to comply with the sanitary code and, and have our tests done. So I just wanted to let you all know about it. It came out of nowhere. And I believe, we can go ahead and pay it this year. It's $150, and I have to have it in, we have to have it in by March 31st, 2014.
The way I read it, when I was reading the background materials on it, I thought that they were indicating that they were trying to combine some of the fees. So they would give us one large fee and then all the testing and everything would come out of that instead of nickel and diming on the testing. Did you read it differently?
Well, usually they charge us as the tests are done.
Uh-huh. And this time they're just going to give us the
Yeah, they're just,
upfront.
yeah, and upfront, they want us to pay upfront.
So the costs overall are in the same ballpark.
Pretty much, just, they're just doing it differently. Well, I just wanted to let everybody know about it because it's different. So that'll be going out with the vouchers.
Okay.
It said we had other options to pay for it, but there's enough money in the budget for us to just pay it this year and get it over with. So. Okay, and there's a parcel on Midway that wants to join the water district. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Did we find any precedents as to who would pay for which portion of the work?
For a portion of what we're of hooking them up to the water supply?
Yeah. The shut off.
I don't think that's what they're asking for. They're just asking to see if they are going to be able to hook to the water supply.
Right.
I don't think there's any
Yeah, they're
numbers.
just asking the question,
put on
can they
anything.
or can they not at this point?
Right, we were asking if we would have, what type of liability would the town, or rather, what type of liability would Water District Number 1 have by having a new parcel join it? Where are the costs?
Well, I think last meeting, Marco went through, you asked pressures and everything like that.
I think if they're in the water district, we can't tell them they can't be in it, can't hook up to it.
Right, and we weren't saying that, we were just saying, what are the costs? And he wasn't clear on exactly where the cutoff was for our, we'll have to put in the pipe, and we'll have to put in the shut-off. Are they going to pay for that? Where is that specifically going to sit? How much is that going to cost? Is that cost absorbed? Does that cost get absorbed by the person joining the district, or is that an expense of the district? That was the question last time when we discussed.
I think all they really want at this time.
Again, I don't think it's relevant.
Right, I mean, may not be even that they hook up. I think what they need is a letter saying that the water district has an approval process, or does it require any sort of drawing? So I think what we should do is just, rather than get bogged down in the extra details that may or may not come to pass, just provide them with the letter that they need from the town water department. I would think it should actually come from Supervisor Perotti, right?
Right.
Saying that we,
Well, I would think saying, yes, you are able to hook up to the system, and once they
Then we go
know
from there.
what the house is or what it's gonna be, how could we put a price on something if we don't even know?
right.
Is it on the left side, is it on the right side, is it in the middle? You know,
Do we have an approval process or not? And I'm not sure that we've had anybody added to the water district in my memory.
We don't.
So then we need our lawyer to look into our approval process. If we don't have one, maybe we should consider it.
Yeah, and then Marco also mentioned that there had been a lawsuit or two in the past about the water district, and recommended that the lawyer look into that as well, because he seemed to think that it pertained to this request.
It doesn't reach, it doesn't apply to this request. And I've looked into that, and there isn't going to be a problem with that person who was involved with the lawsuit. I've already spoken to him. So basically, all I need, I can go ahead and
Do we have that in writing?
write the letter. Do we have it in
That
writing?
won't be a problem.
Well, we can't deny somebody service in the water district who's in the water district.
Right. I'm
Whatever, no
just
matter,
thinking about
yeah, I know,
limiting
but
risk,
whatever
you know.
happened before, we really can't deny people if they're in the water district and they want water.
Yeah.
We can't say no.
I'll make a motion that Supervisor Perotti write a letter on behalf of the Water District Number 1 to the Dutchess County Department of Health, stating that the lot will be serviced by Amenia, Town of Amenia Water District Number 1.
I think all we want to do is say that, do we have an approval process or not, and whether it requires any drawings. I mean, I think we should just simply answer the question that they posed, rather than say we are accepting them into the water district. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we
Simply
just need
provide
to...
the information
yeah,
that they have
answer the
need.
question.
Right.
Okay,
Because if we do have an approval process, we've just said we're accepting you in without any drawings or anything. So let's just answer, do we have an approval process or not?
okay, so
And
I'll
do
just
they
have the
require
letter.
drawings?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, but
just
I
do the
don't-
letter to answer the question.
Yeah.
I don't think Dutchess County is looking for the question of the approval process, the engineer is. Dutchess County Department of Health is just requested a letter from the Town of Amenia Water Department stating that the lot will be served by the water district.
Yeah.
That's what the question is.
And that's what the motion pertains to.
Now, the engineer is asking, please provide a letter at your earliest convenience. Also, let me know if the Amenia Water District has an approval process or requires any sort of drawings. That's from the engineer.
So I still think that we should check in and see if we have an approval process before we say, yes, we are going to accept them into the water district, just to make sure that we have no prior process in place that should have been.
You want to table this?
No, I think we shouldn't hold up somebody who wants to move
Well,
forward with their
basically, all the
property.
letter's going to say is that the lot will be served by the water district.
Yeah.
That's what the Dutchess County Department of Health has
And-
requested.
Well, that's what we can do
That's what
then.
we can do.
Okay.
Do you want to say will be served or is eligible to be served?
Yeah, that would be better.
Eligible.
Eligible to be served. Since they're in the
Because
water
if you
district.
do, if there's something required of the landowner, then
you still have the ability to, require them to do that. They're eligible to if they do whatever they need to do.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk about, how I should word the letter. Okay. Accept or reject bids for doors at the pump houses?
There's a motion on the table
Oh,
for you to
sorry.
write the letter.
Okay. Are we going to vote?
I just need a second before we can take that vote.
I second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Curdy?
Yes.
And Councilman Farrell?
Yes.
Okay, accept, reject bids for doors at pump houses?
Okay, I did a lot of work on this, a lot of research. There was 3 estimates given. The estimates, we weren't sure what type of door and what type of lock we were going to use at the facilities. So the estimates were basically, I don't want to say all over the place, but they had numerous different numbers. Basically, I took the labor, because each estimate stated the labor, and I suggest going with non-fireproof doors with a traditional deadbolt lock instead of the keypad. All right, which brought the cost to $3,544.90. If we go with the doors, this is what I suggest, because there's no code for the fireproof. My feeling is that the fireproof door is not any stronger than the fireproof door. The difference between the door is one has wood jambs on the non-fireproof, one has steel jambs on the fireproof door. We're hooking those doors to a wood frame building, so I don't think the metal jambs really add in any kind of strength. I was at a water committee meeting last night up at the pump house. I was looking at the doors, and I do understand where the doors, why the doors should be replaced. We are worried about the safety of our water system. I got thinking last night when I was up at the pump house, we could have this big door that is very strong and it has a strong lock on it, but we have a huge window right next to it. If someone sees that new door and they don't want to break that door down because it's pretty hard to get through, they're going to go through the window. All right? Now, my theory is if we put these new secure doors in there, the main purpose is to secure the facility. All right? Basically, up on top of Washington Court, you could go up there 3 o'clock in the morning and bang on the door for 2 hours and no one's going to hear you. So I think eventually someone is going to get through those doors. My suggestion, not saying we don't need the doors, maybe taking this money we're going to spend on the doors for right now and looking into a security system. Either an alarm that's triggered when the building is emptied, when someone enters the building, or maybe even a camera system. So I did the research on the doors, and I don't think the doors are a bad idea, but I just think if our main focus is the security of the water supply, I think, again, it's been a popular thing, we could get more bang for the buck spending the money looking into a security system for it. It's just the thought I had.
What do other water
I think we
departments
need
do?
something for the doors.
Yeah.
I mean, the doors have glass in them, and I know there's glass windows, so maybe we need to look at the whole what we need to do to secure the whole building.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, do we put the cart before the horse? Do we put the doors first? Spend, the $3,500 to $4,000 on the doors and then say, wow, we could have used a surveillance system. We could have used an alarm. Because again, you could have the strongest door up there. Someone could hook their truck to it and pull it off the hinges and no one will ever know. At least this way, someone enters that door, the type of security system we have, we know what time. By a code, we know who it was. And there's a record of who went in and who went out. Same thing with the cameras. We know who's in there, who's not in there.
So are you saying we're not going, you don't want to accept the bid?
I don't want to accept the bid right now.
So
I want to look further into
security measures?
security measures.
Okay. How does everyone else?
Okay,
You
that
think
makes
so?
sense.
Okay.
Okay. Public comment? Mr. That would be Mike?
Okay. Michael Kelsey, County Legislator. Lately, the buzz we're hearing right now is all over the energy tax, and rightfully so. That went into effect on March 1st, and that, as you know, was part of the 2014 county budget to bring in funds for a $7.5 million shortfall. I'm hearing regularly from residents by email and by phone upset about it. There's almost a letter every day in the Poughkeepsie Journal from across the county, and constituents, residents are upset, and rightfully so. As you know, I voted against the energy tax. I felt that it was not the way to go. And as I tell people when they call that to keep the pressure up, that the elected officials need to keep hearing what an inconvenience and what a burden this tax is to them. Now, when it was originally proposed, it was proposed by the county executive to be permanent. Some of the legislators felt it should have a sunset, and eventually an amendment was made that it would sunset in 2017. At the time, it was said that people will be upset for a week or so, and then it'll die down, and that has not been the case. And now there's talk of repealing it sooner. My guess would probably be sometime this year. I'm thinking it's probably going to be September-ish. The issue right now in repealing it is that the budget is balanced on $7.5 million coming in from this energy tax. So until that revenue is brought in, it can't be repealed without creating a deficit in the budget or other services being cut. And I'm not hearing that right now. For it to be repealed, there's a 90-day implementation. So if there was a resolution, and there's not one right now, to repeal it at our April meeting, it would not be until July or August at the earliest that it would be repealed. Now, the cost of energy has increased a lot higher than it was projected, and so that people are paying a good amount. I'm hearing people on their oil bill paying $30 or more. Electricity has gone up. So I think sooner rather than later, we're going to reach that $7.5 million, in which case it could be repealed. The issue is going to be, how do you predict it? So that's something that's being looked at. The county executive has also said that if we get mandate relief from the state, that it could be repealed. And to explain that, what that means is that 70% of our county budget is mandated services from the state that are not funded. And a lot of these are good programs, but unfortunately, the bulk of our budget is state programs, and we have a small amount that we can work with. The county executive is saying that if the state was to take over early intervention, which is where 4-year-olds who have special needs can go to school, the county pays for it, to receive almost like a head start on their education. If that funding would be taken away, if the state would absorb it, then we would have the $7.5 million in order not to get rid of the energy tax. Unfortunately, I think the solution that's being recommended from the mayor of New York City and our county executives jumped on is universal pre-K. And that idea would be that all 4-year-olds, not just those with special needs, would go to school. And if that was the case, yes, the county would no longer be paying early intervention. So we'd have a savings there. The problem is I don't think it's good for the taxpayer. The taxpayer will then not only be paying in the state pocket, not only will they be paying for early intervention, they're going to be paying for all fourth graders to go to school and either come from the state budget or come from the local school taxes. So while it would solve the county's problem of our budget, in the long run, I really don't think it's the way to go. I think it's short-sighted to suggest that's the way to go. Plus, I think there's problems with if you send all 4-year-olds to school, those that need the extra help are still at a disadvantage. They're not getting that extra year of help. So where do we go from there? Do the 3-year-olds? And I think it's a backwards idea. I think it sounds good. It's a soundbite. We're going to get mandate relief, but I really don't think that's a solution. I think what the county needs to do is it really needs to look at its services and it really needs to make cuts. And unfortunately, the cuts are going to be painful no matter what because we're bare budgets. But I think going forward, that's where we need to be. One, we need to look at how much revenue is coming in from the energy tax. When can it be ended? And we need to find areas to cut within our budget for next year and the year beyond. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm telling people to keep the pressure up on the energy tax. Nobody likes it. And the elected officials who did vote for it need to keep hearing that. They need to know that people are upset and they're not going to go away. So do keep calling. And as I said, I did vote against it, but I also, I do like to hear from residents because it is a way for me to represent them. I'm at least advocating for repealing, and hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. And other issues in the county, we're in our season where we consider bonds, issuing bonds in order to pay for projects. This year, we've passed 3 bonds so far. The first bond was in December, and that was for purchasing a piece of property that's adjacent to the Dutchess County Jail. It was owned by Taylor Manufacturing. They wanted to relocate elsewhere into the city of Poughkeepsie, and this property is prime real estate for a jail expansion. So it was about $1.8 million, $1.5 million, and that was for 4.5 acres. And right now, it's waiting on the county executive and the sheriff to put together a plan on what kind of expansion will look like. We bonded money last June in order to have a study done on to decide what design to build, what kind of services as far as different populations that are in the jail. And now we have the land, so the next step is hearing what the proposal is. Also, with that bonding of the property, buying that property, that was the sign that the State Department of Corrections needed to receive from us, that we were serious about a jail expansion. As you know, we spend about $8 million a year housing out inmates. We send our inmates to other jails in other counties because we don't have enough space within Dutchess County. The theory that our county executive put together, and it's a good one, is to have temporary pods placed on the property where our inmates, rather than going up to Schenectady or Albany County, will be able to live in these pods in Dutchess County. We would save money on not having to transport them back and forth. We'd save money on gas. We'd save money on corrections officers overtime. And as well as the inmates would be well served, they'd be closer to their families, and they'd also be closer to the services we provide to prevent recidivism. So by us doing this bond, the state gave their okay. Temporary pods will be placed on that property probably the end of summer, and they'll probably start being used probably by the end of the year, if not beginning of 2015. So I think that's good progress on that front. And those pods are temporary, so we will, according to our agreement with the state, we will have to build at some point a jail expansion. And as we go forward, we'll figure out what that expansion looks like. Second bond we did was in January. It's a small bond. It's $145,000. And this bond was to do aerial photographs of the county that allows our county Office of Information Systems to update the various websites, real property, as well as planning purposes that people will use to look down. And it hadn't been updated in several years, probably decades, and they came forward with this proposal. It sounds sound. It will help development proposals. So that was passed in January. And then the third bond, which we considered this past month, we voted on Monday, it's a $1.8 million bond. And that bond will do a series of projects, most benefiting the Auto Center. The Auto Center is on the Salt Point Turnpike next to Bosie's, and it's a building that has not been taken care of for some time. The biggest project is it does not have potable water. And this is not just water for drinking. You have to think about, as mechanics working with oil and grease, what happens if there's contamination in the eye? What do you do? There's no eye wash. The water's not good. So it includes, the bond includes money for a study to figure out what the best solution is, whether it's drilling a new well, whether it's repairing the existing system. So exactly what solution is not known, but this area of concern was a labor complaint that if we did not pass it, it would ultimately probably end up in court anyway, and we'd have to do it, we'd have all the legal fees. Second project at the Auto Center is a remodeling of sorts. You have, this is a new century, we have both males and females employees, and yet the bathroom there is not just a bathroom, as a stall, as a urinal, it's also a locker room, it's also a kitchen with a sink and a microwave, and you can just imagine on the description, I can see on your faces that the facility is not really conducive to a modern workforce, or even an old workforce probably. And so that also is a labor complaint, so that will receive an upgrade. Thirdly, the Auto Center also serves as the impound yard. So when there's fatalities involving motor vehicles, the Sheriff's Department seizes the vehicle and it gets locked up. The problem is that there's no security. So if, for instance, a DWI, or you look up what happened at Bard College, any lawyer could challenge evidence that might be there, and there was no chain of custody, there was no security, somebody could have gotten in, done something. So we'll give us a security system there, cameras, as well as conform the Auto Center to the rest of the county, where you have swipe cards where employees go in and out. Within the last few years, there were issues of employees moonlighting on the weekends, using county facilities for their own projects, or other issues, and so this will at least provide some security to the Auto Center. Also in that bond is a roof repair at their county records room. County records room we purchased several years back. We knew at the time that it had a bad roof, and now the roof is leaking. So it does fix that roof, which is important. So that's our bonds we've done so far. There's also been a bond proposed that will not see the light of day. We have not voted it down yet, but it's been 3 times now we've looked at it, and there is not support, and that is a bond for Dutchess Community College. It would do electrical upgrades. It's year 2 of a 3-year project that he had proposed. Last year it was passed. I voted no. This year legislators are a little more aware of the fund balance, the healthy fund balance the college has, and they are not willing to spend their money. They want to spend our money, and the reason they want to spend our money is it's eligible for a state matching grant. So if the county pays half, the state will pay the other half, and they would rather have the taxpayers pay than use the $25 million in their fund balance between the college, the association, and the foundation. It's not, legislators are looking at the tough financial conditions and saying, well, if it's not that urgent that you're not willing to spend your money, then you shouldn't be spending taxpayers' money. So it's still with us, but it's not going to go anywhere. And then in the next couple months, there'll be more bond projects. In April, we're looking at our fleet of upgrading vehicles, and as well as roads and bridges, which I'll give you more detail next month as we go forward. And we're looking the whole year, we're seeing all the bonds, and obviously we're in tough financial condition. We're not going to be able to spend money on all of them. So we'll have to really prioritize what's necessary and what's not. So that's kind of where we're at in the county. I don't know if there's any questions, anything I spoke about, or any other issues that might be lingering that you may have questions. I'll be glad to answer any.
Well, I went to the State of the County address March 4th, and I took some notes about some of the things that you mentioned, mandate relief. Don't see that coming very quickly. Pre-K to include special education. He also mentioned that he's combining the health and mental health departments.
That's his proposal. The county executive mentioned it last year in the state of county as an idea. I immediately contacted. That's an issue of concern for me, and I reached out to him. And then in June, July, I had an op-ed where I'm opposed to the merger of the health department with mental hygiene. I think it will dilute the mental health services. And while there is a correlation, they're both concerned with health. I think that it would be. Mental hygiene would get buried. They did have a report and the report started last August. They met with 4 legislators, myself included, and our position was that we realized that county government has to change, it has to downsize, but our proposal was mental hygiene should probably merge with the Office of the Aging and Veteran Services, and possibly even social services, now Community and Family Services, to keep a person-centered focus, not just looking at health. I think when you're dealing with health, you're dealing with everything from sanitation and water drinking and whatnot, and not necessarily the total wellness of a person. That was our recommendation. I do have a meeting, not this week, the following week, with the county.
So this hasn't been done yet? This is a proposal?
The consultant they had issued a report. The report, which I have not seen yet, recommends merging the 2 departments of health and mental hygiene. As I started to say, I have a meeting with him in 2 weeks to go over their findings. And my personal view is that it would be a disservice to the mental health population to merge it with health. That being said, I have an open mind to reading what the report says, to really see what it is, and also meet with the county executive, see what the logic is. I still think it should be with other departments, with a person-centered approach. But that is one of the ideas he did bring forward, and it's one that immediately alarm bells went off in my mind, and it's something that personally dear to my heart that I really am worried about going
I thought
forward.
it might be. That's
Yeah.
why I asked you.
There were a couple moments in the speech that I was not clapping, so that was one of them.
And the other thing he mentioned was a consolidation summit of shared services. But he had that in the budget last year where he had $1 million, I think, for shared services, and they left it in. However, it said that he's going to designate it where the focus will be on the dissolution of villages and fire and additional districts like fire districts, and especially fire district combining and other special districts.
Yeah, he said, and there were a lot of ideas. We were not privy to a lot of what he said beforehand, so a lot of them were a surprise to you as it was to me. What he said was he wants to incentivize anywhere shared services money, anyone that can reduce a layer of government. And he used those examples, whether it's a village into a town or some sort. And I think there is, well, it sounds good, and I think there's merit. I think at the same time, it's not always true that it's going to be cost savings, and sometimes it makes government further than the people. A few years back, they did a study in Millbrook, and village of Millbrook and the town of Washington, whether or not it would be feasible to collapse the two. And I think their findings were that it was not. Now, there were some areas they did merge the justice court. And I do think, and I realize I'm being recorded, probably shouldn't say it, but I do think there is areas within the justice system where we have, I think, 44 town justices in the county. Do we need that many? Can we have districts? I think there are areas that might make sense, but I would be worried about saying, let's get rid of towns or villages, so I think he should tread lightly in that area, but I do think it is worthwhile to at least consider things.
Yeah, that was the first he's actually mentioned dissolution. I know last year it was just $1 million for towns to use to do shared services, and that's why I was.
He did give the example of, and I'm not familiar with it, but he did give the example in the speech of Beacon, where they had 2 firehouses that consolidated into one, and I would assume there's savings there. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about, but I think I think there's theory and there's implementation, and theory a lot of times sounds good, but when you go to implement it, it's not always the case. And so I think that you need to be careful. I see where he's coming from. We want to have cost savings, but I think there's a lot that can be lost, and you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, it sounds like he took a page out of the governor's budget.
I think a
the
lot
budget,
of.
Yeah, the governor is talking about, that there's too many layers of government, and then then we hear it from the county executive too.
And it's very easy to say that when you're on the top. You can say, oh, well, there's too many layers, but when you're dealing with the bottom, a lot of times there's a value there, and a lot of times having the government closest to the people is best. So, if anything, I would probably argue that you can eliminate part of the county. I mean, we're the middle layer. I don't really see the value as, and I say this as a county legislator, is, we used to be the Board of Supervisors. Why do we have the county legislature? Why can't we go back to the Board of Supervisors? There's some savings there. Perhaps that could be the area. I think that we need to not just pick on the low person on totem pole, the towns and villages. We need to also look where else can we consolidate.
Yeah, I wasn't sure from when he spoke if, the total shared services budget was going to be for dissolution. He sounded like that's kind of what they were targeting, but I didn't know if there were, other funds available for something else other than dissolution of a group.
When it was set up for shared services, for consolidation, efficiencies. I'm trying to think of what there were 4 of them, and economic development was also one of them. Mm-hmm. Now the decision makers is a committee. The county executive obviously is on it. A couple of the legislators are. I'm not personally on it, but so they look at the projects, the applications, and evaluate the merit. Millbrook got one that they were going to combine something with, it was a camera for their sewer system or something, I don't know the details. So there were some good projects that came along that were shared services, and I think and again, I was the only thing what he said in the speech, I think his focus is they want to incentivize consolidation or dissolution.
I think one was a wastewater. Weren't there 3 towns? Was it Tri-County?
It probably is, yeah. And there were a number, and there was, I think Hyde Park put it forward with a number of towns for sharing software. Mm-hmm. So I think there were some good ideas, and I think his idea ultimately is this money should result in savings to the taxpayer. Again, I would look at the merits of each project, how is it being implemented, and really, are we really saving money in the long run, or are we just looking for short-term solutions that in the long run hurt us, and there's a danger there. So the other thing he said in the speech that was to privatize the airport. And we have a meeting tomorrow that'll be with the consultant who did that study, and I have a report. It's about this thick. I'll be reading it next week.
You said you had to add wastewater first, right?
The theory, as has been said for a while, is to add water and wastewater. Mm-hmm. And by the airport in Wappingers, town of Poughkeepsie, where they come together, the Dutchess County Rail Trail is not too far away. And that rail trail, obviously, as you know, underneath, has the pipe of water carrying from the Hudson down to East Fishkill. So it's not too difficult to tap in the water from the rail trail to the airport. And they did receive a state grant, some money from the state to do that. So they're already underway in bringing water to the airport. The airport for a while has been, eating up taxpayer dollars that we've been subsidizing it through both projects as well as labor. We have employees there. We do taxing services. And one legislator in particular, Joe Incarnato from Wappingers, has been zeroing in on that. He has not been letting up that. He says it's been bleeding us dry and really focusing on privatizing the airport. Aviation is not a core function of government. The argument on the other side is that it has economic development, that it has an impact not only in jobs, but you have businesses traveling in and back and forth. The problem is economic development, and you see that with people running for office. It's all about, elect me, I'm going to create jobs, I'm going to increase the economy. I'm of the opinion that that's not really why we're elected. The economy is really, we want to take government away so that businesses can prosper, but I don't really think that we should be owning an airport. I don't think we should be owning a baseball stadium, which also costs taxpayers money, has economic impact, absolutely, but we started it up and we should hand it over. And I think both those cases, the stadium and the airport, is the way to go. And so I was pleased to see that we're looking forward at privatizing the airport. The consultant's report, haven't read it yet, but my understanding is they're saying you need to give water and wastewater to the airport first so that it actually becomes marketable. Somebody would say, hey, let's run a restaurant here. Let's do businesses here. Let's make it a, more of an economic impact, more of an economic engine.
I had an interesting call today from the governor's office
Okay, wow, important.
about the real property tax freeze credit. Apparently, they're getting some pushback on that from the Association of Supervisors and Mayors and other groups, and they wanted to make sure that I understood it. And basically, the two components of it are the town and the county. If the towns stay under the cap for 2 years, there would be a rebate. In other words, if we were, like the cap is this year is 1.77, and if we were at 1.3, that the taxes rose, then the rebate to the property owners would be 1.3. They said any increase that the taxpayer would normally have, they would get that increase back. And that would have to be 2 years in a row, because I asked him, I said, well, I have fire districts that have to stay under the cap. I have a school district that has to stay under the cap. Do we all have to stay under the cap to take the benefit of this? And he said, no, it's tied, it's two components. It's the town and the county. And he's, after the third year, there's a third shared services plan where county and towns have to sit down together to discuss shared services. And he quoted the town of Fishkill and the city of Beacon for their consolidation of fire districts and courts. And he said that Dutchess County will submit our shared services plan, and that will be their, whatever one shared services plans they have, it would be sent to the Department of State and the New York State Division of Budget. And then year 3, the rebate would be 1%, year 4 would be 2%, and year 5 would be 3%. And it said all tax levies combined for whoever attempted to do the shared services. And then he explained that towns that didn't participate in the shared services, the town portion wouldn't get the percentage, but if the county participated in it, that the county portion of the tax is where you would get the rebate, and then it would be vice versa. I explained to him first, well, his example was 1.3, and I said, well, it's a struggle enough for the municipalities, and I figure as long as I had his ear, I would mention a few things.
Wow.
I said municipalities such as Amenia that don't have light industry, and our major employer, the state decided to close, I said put a huge burden on us because we don't have the tax base. We have capital projects that, like a highway garage and a heating and cooling system. And I said, and he said, well, they're exempt for school districts. I said, but not for me. They're not exempt for us. And I said, the biggest problem we have as a small community is the fact that besides not having the tax base is also the Wicks law, prevailing wage, which makes it a huge burden for us to do a capital project. I said I have a highway garage that's 25 years old, doesn't meet any safety requirements any which way you look at it, and I've got to, figure out how to do this. And I said, the thing that is the biggest hardship to municipalities, especially small municipalities like Amenia, is having that rule of 2% or the rate of inflation. I said the rate of inflation last year was 1.66. This year, he said, well, it's 1.77. And I said, well, that's not helping me. I said, you're telling me 2%, I've got to stay under it. If not, I'll be penalized and my taxpayers will be penalized. And yet, instead of just leaving it 2% and not having it the rate of inflation. So I figure I had his ear, I had nothing to lose.
Right.
So I just told him what a huge hardship that is for small municipalities. Having the rate of inflation and then, having our, whatever debt or capital projects that we absolutely had to do being counted against us because it was counted toward the cap. And so he just, he wanted to make sure I understand how it worked, and he was, going to send me some additional information. And I thought it was interesting. Then he said, well, can I, would I be able, once I send you the information, would I be able to put your name on a list of supervisors and people from town who, who understand it and, would go along with it? And I said, no. I said, I want to see what you're sending me first, and then I'll make a decision. But I figured as long as he was there, and he said he would take that back. And I said, well, I hope you do, because this is real world here.
Right.
And, and I said, if there is any plan that the state has for the Wasaig VDSO, are you going to let me know what it is? And he said, yes. And he, even gave me his cell phone and said I could call him again. So I guess but, it is what it is. I mean, that's what we're up against here. And I think the governor needs to know that, what kind of a burden he's putting on small municipalities.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it comes down to the same thing I said before, theory and implementation. It sounds good, but how is it being implemented? And then I think, it's not that long ago that the property tax cap went into effect. I think we also need to be looking at it, well, how's it working? I think it is causing hardship, and I know that was, you look at our county budget, that was the question, is do we go through the property tax cap or do we do this energy tax? I voted to continue to go through the property tax cap. I said it would be cheaper, cost people less to pay an increase in property tax than an energy tax, and that your property tax, what you pay in property taxes, is deductible on your income, whereas the energy tax is not.
We were under the cap last year, and I'm going to do my darndest to stay under it this year. I am looking into shared services. I called Chris Barkley, the shared services coordinator, and I'm trying to schedule a date for him to come out the week of March 24th to look at our website development and any other IT services that we could get, we could save some money on. So, he's going to bring out a whole team of people to look at all our IT, what we have here. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, to see, if we can get a better deal, especially our website. We're not really happy with our website, and I mean, that could certainly use improvement.
Good.
Can I ask a question that, just to remind me if either of you two know or anybody else, the tax cap that we're working under, does that include capital costs? In other words, if we bond, would that be the debt service?
The debt service would,
Yes,
the debt service would be included in that. So we have got to stay under the cap,
Yes.
including
Only the schools are exempt
from that portion.
from the
debt
capital.
service? Okay.
Yeah.
I would just say that my gut feeling is that we should do our level best to keep taxes at inflation rate. Nobody is getting paid 2% or more a year in their salaries. So where does that money come from? It comes out of their discretionary funds. So I think, as onerous and difficult as it is, it's one emergency brake that the taxpayer can say to their elected officials, we can't do this ad infinitum. We just can't. Okay, there's an emergency. Okay, we have to build a highway garage. Okay, I understand that. Fine. Go ahead and do what you have to do. We understand. But you're going to have to explain that to the taxpayers. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I think the fact that, we just do 7% or 8% or whatever, and we don't, every level of government has got to figure out, and we have to have an emergency brake.
And
it's an emergency brake.
And I agree with you. The problem is when they did the property tax cap, they also said they're going to give mandate relief. And the problem is that the mandates that we have in the county as well as the town, you know, and you mentioned the Wicks law and whatnot, drives up the cost. Like we have to pay Medicaid costs. Well, we can't control that. That goes up higher. You have social services, you know, welfare, whatever. As more people or economy's bad going in services, we're paying that. And then you look at utilities and fuel. So even though employees are not getting increases in pay, cost of government is still going up, and we're at a point where we don't want to go higher, but then what services are you going to cut? And that's really where we've been faced. In the last couple of years, we've gotten rid of programs that affect youth. We've gotten rid of programs, the Human Rights Commission. We've gotten rid of good programs. We've said, well, we got to cut this. And now it's at a point where, and we've laid off, in the county, we've laid off 130 people in the last 5 years, probably more than that. Where do you keep going? And that's this year, $8 million was our shortfall. Do you get rid of E911? Do you get rid of mental hygiene services, road patrols for the sheriffs, snow plowing? I mean, those are core functions of government, and that's where we're really faced at. Well, do you raise taxes or do you get rid of the services? And $8 million is a huge chunk for us to get through. And I said, let's cut. And I looked at the community college as an area to cut. I didn't win. I was on the minority. The majority said we're going to do an energy tax, and I think people are saying that's a bad idea. So you repeal the energy tax, you still got that 8 million, 7.5 million. How do you get rid of it? And that's the questions: what services do you cut? You know, we can't control those mandated areas.
Yeah, I mean, if they had just left it at 2% instead of this 2% or the rate of inflation, we can keep it under the 2%, but when you get down to, 1.6, 1.66, and, it just gets more and more difficult. I mean, we're looking at any cost savings there is. I mean, that's why the county's going to come out and look at our IT, because that's a big, that's a big chunk of our.
We have to look at everything, and I think that's part of the whole incentive. And Cuomo did. There has been pension reform, so that's a start. It doesn't affect our budget now, but it's a start. But I think, given the silver lining of this recession is that we've all been able to find and will continue to find, and I think we should stop pointing fingers. This drives me nuts when we keep saying, no, they did it, no, they did it, no, we, let's just stop that. And yes, go for real revisions like the Wicks law and things that just make it incredibly expensive to do anything. But I think it doesn't, I think more specifics rather than saying, no, it's Albany's mandates that are driving us. All of us have to participate in this.
And we're doing that on the county level. Each month, we're in our budget committee, we're already looking at the 2015 budget. We're going through that 30% that we have discretionary spending and saying, what does this really cover, and looking for areas that we can make cuts, because we realize next year people are expecting us. And so we're spending, we started this month, and each month right up, we're not waiting to September when our budget usually comes out. November is usually when we get it. We're looking at it saying, this is the area we need to cut, getting that conversation going out to people saying, we're going to cut senior meals or whatever it might be. And I don't want to scare people, but any decision we're going to make is going to affect people. And I think we need to get the conversation out to people realize, okay.
It's not the same. Things are not the way they were. And the sooner they start getting realized that they can't have all the services that they had and not experience 7% increases per year ad infinitum. We can't do that.
We're between a rock and a hard place.
Right. And people have to know right now it's not business as usual.
No.
Can't be.
Right. So it's very depressing, huh? It really is.
It's a positive, because that was unsustainable. That rate of increases in New York State, you cannot continue to be the highest tax place and still expect to be competitive in this world. The world has changed.
Right.
We're competing with, globally, and we have to be competitive. I'm sorry, but I have just sat through 2 Association of Towns, and I hear crying and whining about the 2%. And I'm the only person in there saying, I'm one of the 75% of the New Yorkers who think taxes are too high in New York. I mean, they really are. And you cannot, listen to Cuomo. He says, we can't keep being the highest tax. So I'm sorry, I had to get that off my chest because I was clearly in the minority. Association of Towns, they wanted to tar and feather Governor Cuomo's deputy, the deputy governor, and he had such a hard time with this incentive, which would actually give money back to the taxpayer, the taxpayer who lives in the town, who successfully maintains these cuts, these reductions in taxes. You would have a paycheck back to you in that form of savings, in the form of a credit, and it would come around in October. And I just heard on the radio, that's just an election gimmick. You vote in November and you just got a check for $1,500 for the savings, much like the STAR
They said the same
program.
back in 04, 05 when Bush was president, and you know what? I got a new dishwasher out of it, so so it does have as
It
benefits.
has a huge
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. So
Good, okay.
and the county is in line for qualifying for that rebate check.
Wonderful. So I'm saving up for that. And
Yeah, new dishwasher, whatever.
new dishwasher, new appliances, get ready.
Right.
Because Amenia is serious.
Christmas
and so
in
is the
October.
county. Right. Don't forget to reelect us, right?
Right.
Sorry.
So thank you very much. I probably went way over my time, but so thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Town board comments?
We have some wonderful things coming up. The Weebatuck Drama Society is going to provide Damn Yankees. Come join the fun. Friday, March 14th, 7 o'clock p.m. Saturday, March 15th, 7 p.m. Sunday, March 16th, 2 o'clock p.m. Tickets are typically $8, as I recall, and $8 to $10, I can't remember, but it's very, very good. You won't regret it. They're always fabulous. There's a Cub Scout Pack 29 corned beef and cabbage dinner at Wasaik Firehouse. Saturday, March 15th, 4 to 7 p.m. It's sit down or take out and $10 each. There's a fireman's breakfast. Are you going to do that? Fireman's breakfast
Yes,
is...
it's time for breakfast again. Sunday.
Last one of the year? Okay, everybody has to come out then. It's
Not doing one in April, so.
That's Easter, actually, the 3rd. So don't come Easter morning, you will not have breakfast. They are having their Sunday at home. So the firemen's are providing breakfast again for Sunday, March 16th, 7:30 a.m. to 11, is that right? 11 a.m.? Those are my announcements. I have more, but
Go ahead.
let me just say CAC is going to be Monday, March 17th at 7 p.m. right here. I love the idea of the cleanup day, and I hope that we'll do a cleanup day, April 13th at 10 a.m. It looks like they're going to do that at the ball field, but I would be very happy to lead a greater Amenia. It's a Sunday, April 13th. We could either do Saturday, April 12th, or if we did Saturday, April 12th, then we could possibly use that transfer station for volunteers to take their trash by noon to the transfer station. Last year, they did honor our tradition of allowing volunteers who pick up roadside trash to bring in their trash for free, their roadside trash for free. Does that sound good for everybody if April 12th I organized a townwide?
Yes.
Okay. Let's make it official. I'll do that. So, citizens, okay, we did that. Silo Ridge, are we doing an information meeting?
There's an information meeting about the history of Silo Ridge. It's going to cover their original plan all the way through what their plan is now. There will be people from Silo Ridge and Discovery. They're going to be doing slides and explaining exactly what their project is. That's on Monday, March 24th at 7 p.m. And everyone is invited to attend. It's informational presentation by Silo Ridge and Discovery.
I see our Easter egg hunt is also, I believe, April 12th. Is that correct?
10 a.m. Easter
10 a.m.
will be arriving.
So you be here sharp at 10 a.m. at the town hall. Is that right? On Saturday, April 12th. And if you're not into Easter egg hunting, come and clean up garbage with us.
We'll hide some Easter eggs.
Yeah. Right. Okay. That's it.
Anyone else?
I had the opportunity yesterday to be over at Weebatuck when the bus drivers and the Fire Victims Relief Fund, which Kevin Castone has organized, was able to present them with funds that are helping them through this very extreme tragedy in their life. And I just wanted to, it was so touching to be there, and I just wanted to extend my appreciation to everybody in the community who has given, because it really means so much when you've lost your home to such a devastating fire. It's, I just don't have the right words to express it, but it was very touching to be there, and they're very grateful to the community, as am I.
We got a couple things. The first one, the park bench that was damaged by the basketball courts during the snow plowing this winter was fixed. I was down there and looked at it after Northwest fixed it. Looks great to me. I do urge the board members to go down and take a look at it.
It looks
fabulous,
as good as new.
You know, Mr. Duncan fixed it, no cost to the town. So that's all set. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I don't know if this is the right place. All our boards, our planning boards, our zoning boards, and our committees, the people that we appoint to these things, there's a lot of big projects coming up in town. There's a lot of things going on. I was wondering if we could get some kind of attendance to these committees and to these boards. There are some committees and there are some boards that members are just not showing up to. Is there any way to purge these members that don't want to show up anymore and open up spots for people that are interested in volunteering their time? I know for the planning board, we had a resolution about the 4 credits of training. Are we following up with that? Are we making sure everybody on the planning board and stuff has that training? So I don't know if it would be something that would be put on the agenda that we talk about. Trying to get all these committees together and boards have an attendance so we could set some kind of procedure or some kind of rule. You miss so many meetings in a row without an excuse. You know, I would just like to look into that. And again, if people are on these committees that they don't have the time to serve, let's see if we could get fresh blood on these committees, people that are willing to put the time in and can put the time in. I'm not saying that the people who are missing meetings aren't willing to, it just might be a conflict.
At the reorg meeting, you were giving the policies and procedures on committees.
On committees, okay?
So you'll have that in your packet.
Okay.
But I do think he brings up a very important point, is that it is by law required that certain boards do follow through with their training, and it's very important that all boards follow the procedures so that all their decisions are, you know, there's no question that everybody needs to follow all the procedures. So I think it would behoove us to have Dawn give us a report at the next town board meeting as to how many people have provided their certificates of training.
None to date.
Okay, so what we need to do is have the supervisor contact them and say, or get them a letter or something out that says, we have nothing on file for your training, please submit that at your earliest convenience so that we are complying by the law. I think that's the minimum that we need to do. The attendance, I think, is also, we should revisit that and see what the requirement is for our boards. The committees are less critical. They are volunteer.
But still, if we're going to do a policy, we should run it across the whole board, you know, the whole.
Okay, so
There is
that's
a-
a written,
there is a
that's a written
policy.
policy.
You know,
Yep.
So then we'll, you know, we'll find the policy, I'll read the policy, and we'll see how we have to enact it.
Right. I think that's good.
And that's it for me.
That's it? Supervisor's report. I've been going to some trainings. On February 20th, I went to the Dutchess County Human Resources for training about civil service procedures, and I went with Annette Culligan, the secretary, the supervisor. We found out that we needed to add job titles for animal control officer and registrar of vital statistics for our payroll to be certified. These job titles have been added to the county records. We also discussed other job titles and changed typist category to clerk and updated the names in the specific job titles. I went on March 10 to the Dutchess County Risk Management Self-Insured Workers' Compensation Plan Supervisors Training from 1 to 3. And I also wanted to give an update on the Trail to the Train. I've had weekly conference calls. We are in the right-of-way incidental phase with Trail to the Train. The right-of-way brochure and other required forms have been sent to the landowner. Metro North is granting us a permanent easement with an annual lease fee of $1. They'll be invoicing the town of Amenia for the appraisal that had to be done. In addition, we're working with the Fish and Wildlife contact at DEC to get a required concurrence letter. The DEC permit is ready to go to DOT approval when the final design is complete. So that's where we are with that right now.
So we have to wait for the DEC approval when the application is complete? I'm sorry, that was the last thing that you said?
Right.
You put it on? So that
The
comes-
permit is ready to go for DOT approval when we send the whole packet. But right now, we're working on the right-of-way
Okay.
for both. And is there anything else? I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Councilman Blanco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Henselberger?
Yes.
Supervisor Cordy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gordon?
Yes.